I'd like to welcome you to the Public District Budget Hearing for Region 12 School District. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll read the notice of the public budget hearing. Notice is hereby given to all those entitled to vote in town meetings in the towns of Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington, that a public hearing will be held on Monday, April 4 at 7 p.m. at the Library of the Shepuag Valley School, 159 South Street, Washington, Connecticut, to present the annual budget for the year 2016-17, prepared by the Regional Board of Education for Shepuag Valley Regional School District 12, copies of which will be available at the public meeting. Shepuag Valley Regional School District 12, Bridgewater, Roxbury, Washington, by James Hirschfield, Chairman, Board of Education, Washington Depot, Connecticut 06794. All right, item 3 on the budget is an overview and presentation of the budget process and 2016-17 annual budget for Regional School District 12. Dr. Costino, do you want to present your budget?
Yes. We begin the budget process in October. It is a collaborative process where all of the principals and the directors of the different departments, district and in the schools, look at their budgets really from a zero-based budget of seeing what they need to provide an academic program for the following year. That begins in October. In December, before December, right around Thanksgiving, the principals have to have their budgets into Bob Geeson's office. At that point, we have meetings with each principal and each department head. And when I say department head, I'm speaking of Don O'Leary for facilities, Karen Files for technology, Teresa DeBrito for curriculum and instruction, including professional development, and Allie O'Hara, who does all the pupil services, including special education. At that point, we really go line by line, and we ask questions. We make reductions. We do ask them to go and look at different parts of the budget that we may have questions about. Then after we meet with them and they make changes, Bob and I meet and we come up with some of the changes that I'd like to make also. After that, we invite in the finance department led by Valerie, and that's usually in January, February, where we really start to share with them. The principals and the directors share their budgets and the reasons and whether there are any increases or decreases. And after that point, we have on our final day, I usually give an overview to the finance department, and we do invite at that point all of the town selectmen, all of the finance boards. Some come, some do not. I've had meetings with finance directors who couldn't make it at that time to give them an overview. But the last day, I really give an overview of the staffing changes. And then we put together the budget. And that usually happens second to third week in February, work on the budget. And we presented it March 4th. I presented a budget of an increase of 0.08%. As you know, then it becomes the board's budget, and the board is working with my budget to make some changes. They made an addition, they made a subtraction, and now we're at 0%.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, questions or statements concerning the budget to be entertained. Is there anybody who wants to address the board? If you would raise your hand, stand up if you would like to, and state your name and where you're from. Is there anyone? Is there anyone? Well, please raise your hand and go up and just be recognized. Go ahead. Thank you.
John Boniuto. Is this on? My question concerns the the extra $40,000 for tutoring. Basically, who are the tutors? Where is the most emphasis on bringing up any deficiencies? What grade level specifically? I'm seeing that it has to do with most of the amount. Is it page 2 of 13? $17,500 for extended academic support. That looks like it's someone with a master's degree. Is that someone, is that a teacher within our system or comes from outside?
Go ahead. What-
Yes, that is for the middle school, and that is for an after-school program called Easy. And the students stay 2 days. No, it's it's an increase. It's 17,500. And the students can stay after school if they need support in any of the academic areas. Usually it's math or reading or writing. And so it's our current staff members who get paid additional hourly rates to work with our students after the school day.
They pay their transportation? Or to,
No,
oh, you
no,
mean
the
to
region
each of the district schools? Or just,
What Mrs. Gallo is saying
Okay.
is that that money also includes, and the bus that picks up the late bus that brings the kids home after the tutoring, so it's all in the same line.
oh, okay, so that's not salary, that's
No,
everything? Okay.
Yes.
Would that be pertinent to the remedial literacy tutors, price of $209,543?
no, now those are the tutors that are in the elementary schools. So, currently this year, we'll start with that, we have a full-time literacy tutor at WPS and a full-time math tutor at WPS. Then we also have at Burnham School and Booth Free, this year, they share a literacy tutor. And then at Booth Free, we have a half of a math tutor.
That's in addition to the paras and the teachers?
Yes, it is. And I just want to let you know that I think this is only a partial cost. I believe some of their money is also in the grant money also that we get under some of the funds. So yes, that's an addition. And last year, I reduced a tutor, and I got a lot of pushback about that. And this year, the board reduced a half of a tutor, being that they put back the half a teacher at Burnham. And so now the board decided that any class that has less than 10 students in it, the classroom teacher would work with those students when needed.
Yet, the price increased $40,000 from last year.
Well, that's true. Can you give me more information, Teresa? I don't know offhand. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm thinking of interventionists. I'm not thinking of tutors. Oh, so those are, okay, so those are also, we have those also. Okay, so I'm sorry, let me rephrase, because I gave you some misinformation, which was inadvertent on my part. The tutors are in the schools, working in classrooms with students in all 3 elementary schools. What I just explained to you were the interventionists. So we have tutors and we have interventionists.
So you have a teacher in the classroom and also a tutor comes in and works individually
Yes.
Yes, not the whole day, but parts of the day.
with the low class sizes?
Yes. Anyone else? Ma'am?
My name is Janet Boniuto from Washington. I have 2 questions. On page 7, and I'm referring to the first budget that was presented.
Well, we're not, hold on, we're not really dealing with the first budget, we're dealing, the one that's been passed is the second one. That's the one the
Okay.
board's approved.
Okay, so under other purchase services, it's code 512, transportation in-district private.
May I please address that for you,
Okay,
if this thing works? Oh, thank you. This is my favorite line. You've heard about unfunded mandates, the state's
yeah,
mandates that we must provide certain things. Line 512 is your question,
yes.
which in this proposed budget is $150,000,
Yes.
Actually,
up from
it's-
147.
It's code 512, and it's $480,673.
Well, I'm looking on page 7 for code 512.
Okay, so
Is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring to other purchase services.
513 is 480.
Is
Transfer-
out-of-district special ed?
No, transportation in district private is how it's
Okay, that is
labeled.
line 512 on page 7 of your budget.
Yes,
Okay, that is something as treasurer and finance chair I complain about each and every year. We can't do anything about that. What that is that if a certain percentage of our private schools have Connecticut-based students, i.e. Rumsey,
right.
Gunnery, I believe, is not in the formula this year because they have less than 50% of their kids in Connecticut. We must either provide transportation to and from their private schools, from their homes here,
You mean,
or give them a stipend per student, per family, which is between $800 and $1,000 a year.
okay, so that's Region 12 students who go to a private school are given a stipend.
Or transportation, in lieu of transportation. We must provide transportation. And because buses are so expensive,
Yeah.
a lot of times we would rather give the parents a stipend
Okay.
in lieu of providing transportation, or we accommodate them on our buses when the schedule permits.
Right.
Or we have to have a dedicated bus. It's a state mandated thing, and I complain about it yearly. It's $150,000 of our taxpayer dollars to subsidize private schools.
Well, on this line item, it's $480,673.
Okay, you're on 513, correct?
I thought I was on 512, but,
But that's okay, we can talk about that too.
Okay, transportation. We are mandated also by the state.
yeah,
When we have children who cannot have services provided in their PPT and in their individual education plan, if we can't provide those students with programs here, and believe me, we make every effort to provide those students programs here as much as possible. But if we can't, we have to also provide transportation to outplaced schools. We pay tuition, and we pay transportation. For instance, if a child has to go to Glenholm or Foreman or any number of places, we were taking one child all the way up to the American School for the Deaf in Hartford, and these are services, thank God, we can provide to these children. It's our mandate, and it's the
Right.
best thing we do for special ed. But that's the cost, the transportation cost.
yeah. So 480,000.
Right.
Over 480,000.
It's an unfunded state mandate. We have to pick up the bill.
A lot of it-
That's what it is, and we have no choice.
You can imagine it's very special transportation for each particular.
I understand, yeah,
person, I
I
assume.
understand.
We could have a profoundly disabled child,
Right.
and we have to provide that, and we should. It's the right thing to do. It just happens to cost a lot.
Okay, I have one more question concerning the Sherman busing. This is on page 11. When you look at the Sherman budget, they have a line item for this year anyway, is $55,328 for busing to Shepuag Valley High School. Now, that doesn't show up anywhere in the Shepuag budget as a income or revenue. And I know that you kind of work it into the tuition.
No, it's
that-
part of the items that's returned to the town. It's part of the money, we have to return that money to the towns.
Can you show me where that
tuition.
is on the budget? Like what page or
It's
where?
not part of the budget because school districts are not allowed to collect revenue. So any revenue that comes in goes to the towns. So when we receive money, that money comes to us, but then goes right to the town. So it's not part of our operating budget because we are not permitted by law to earn revenue.
Okay, so how do you compute the cost per student for a Sherman student who comes to Shepuag then?
It's a contract that we renegotiate frequently,
Yes.
and in order to entice more Sherman students here,
Yeah.
we did throw in our expense of sending them a bus so that we could get more Sherman students in, so they could pay more tuition, so we could remit more to the town. But that's net of that expense. But we renegotiate it frequently, and by the way, should not be mixed up in any way, shape, or form with the proposed ag science tuition.
Right, right. So you're saying the money comes back to the town and it's prorated as far as how many students, like Washington paid something like 48% of the budget, so they would get 48% of that revenue coming back.
The way it's usually done,
Yes,
though,
I
if I
believe that's
might,
correct.
is that it's net of expenses. So, for instance, the bill to the town of Burnham is $2 million.
Right.
But they should pay us $3 million for their share of the budget. So usually it's net of your income. It's taken out net of what you should be remitting to us. However, at the end of the year, at the end of the budget year,
Right.
when we are completely finished with that budget year, the towns do get an additional check. I forgot what it was this last year. I think it was $38,000 to Washington and 19 to, we have it, I have it in the records. So that's just additional monies.
Is that required to go back into the coffers for education to the towns, or can they spend it?
Do what
No,
you
it
want
goes
with
into
it.
the general fund. I
That's
believe.
also interest income on our different bank accounts as well.
All right,
We
so-
can't hold any income at all.
All right. So when you look at, I'm looking at page 11, revenues by source. So you're saying all of those revenues are something that comes back to the town. Is that correct?
Net of expense.
Net of
You're not going to
expense.
see exactly this, and of
Yeah.
course, it's according to the population as of October 1.
Okay,
Correct.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay?
But thanks for letting me highlight line 512, whether your question was or not.
Yeah.
I think you have to realize that school systems have a lot of mandates by law.
I do,
It's
And
the
we're
public
stuck
school
with them.
system. It's the
Yeah.
public school system.
right.
Got a lot, yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Wainwright?
All right, my name is Ed Wainwright, and I'm from Bridgewater. And my question has to do with, I guess I gotta find it in your budget. Where is it? Has to do with the $250,000 item on page number 9. $250,000 of the Shepuag teacher's room. All right? We're
Right.
familiar with that budget item, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I asked for, it relates to why isn't that money coming out of the, not a budget item, but why isn't it, shouldn't it be out of the 1% fund? I asked for an accounting of the 1% fund earlier last week, and I find that you're going to have a meeting later today, and you're going to authorize taking some money out of the 1% fund to spend for capital items here in Shepuag and a number of other things. Something like $91,000 is going to be authorized. But there also is an item in your meeting to add $216,000 to the 1% fund, which is the 1% of the budget, right? So by my accounting, what's sitting in there right now is something like $467,000,
Right.
rough number.
Yep.
And when you add the 216, it's $683,000 sitting in that 1% fund. Now, why can't this renovation of the area be taken out of the 1% fund? $250,000, you still end up with over $400,000 in the 1% fund.
Ed, this is scaring me, but I agree with you completely.
Well, that's great.
And it's
So
my
the two
intention,
of us could vote on that, is that right?
no, just
No?
me. No, at the end of this meeting, when we have our meeting and we set the time for the referendum and the budget, after we hear from all of you or whomever has comments like you do, we can make modifications to the budget. And I intend to make a motion.
Well,
that
that's tremendous. I
250
would like to second that motion, as I have
Thank
privilege
you.
to do.
Well, when you're back on the board, that's a possibility, and I
No.
appreciate it.
You certainly don't want that to happen.
But I think that's worthy of conversation, that it shouldn't be on the operating budget, it should be out of the 1%.
Hopefully,
Since, as you
someone
say,
will
we have
second that.
$467,000 in that 1% fund after our different allocations this evening. So we'll talk about it. That's a good idea.
Good.
Anything else, sir?
I think that's a major item.
Okay,
I
thank you.
can't critique whether it's $250,000 or $240,000 or whatever it is. But if it's a need, it should be coming out of the 1% fund. And you've been contributing to this fund for the last 10 years. And that's the purpose of the fund, right? Okay, thank you.
Seemingly
Could I
so.
just, Jim,
Yes.
just point out that the 1% fund is reserved for capital use only. And I don't know off the top of my head, Don might have a better figure of what percentage of that work or that budget is expense versus capital. So we can't lose sight of that piece. So it isn't as easy as a wholesale lift. So we need to be careful about what we do there. And on the other side, Don also has a list of capital projects that are totaling in the 7 figures that are all clamoring to get at that balance of that 1% fund. So it's not like we're trying to be very diligent about the use of that 1% fund as we go forward.
Right.
Well, I guess I get to respond with
Yes, go ahead.
I would note that the first selectman of Roxbury and the Board of Finance chairman in Roxbury on the last meeting recommended the use of the 1% fund.
Right.
And I would expect there'll be discussion today by the first selectman of Bridgewater about that subject.
Great minds think alike.
Pardon me?
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
You want to give me more? Somebody else want to
Sir,
comment?
thank you. Good to see you.
Curtis Reed, Bridgewater.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ed, for nominating me. I wholeheartedly agree that the 1% should be used, the 1% fund, if it's $250,000, that's certainly a capital improvement. There may be parts of that that could be called repairs, but it is what this fund is for. And I know from talking to staff here, to Bob Geeson about this, that the goal is to try to save money so you have money to spend on ag STEM repairs. With this capital, you wouldn't be spending out of the 1%. And if you spend this money out of the budget, then you won't have to borrow as much later on, and therefore the argument is you'd be saving money because you'd forego the interest payments. That's what Bob told me. And I see that logic, but that's sort of before the horse is out of the barn, so to speak, on ag STEM. And I think that, you know, in light of cutting the language program, you could use monies that may be capital on this project to reinstall a full Spanish teacher and ensure that we do have some foreign language training, or more than what is being cut. And I'm sure you can find uses for that, but also with the number of students going down, I think 39 was a projection that it would drop. To see the budget drop a little bit, I think would be fiscally responsible and probably ensure its passage. But the money is there in the 1% fund. This appears to be capital, and I think you should take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Anyone? Thank you, sir. Anyone wish to be heard? All right, is there anyone else who wants to address this or be heard? Okay. Then I'll move to adjourn the public district budget hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it's adjourned. Thank you. So we'll move on to I'll adjourn the Region 12 Board of Education special meeting. Rebecca, would you take attendance, please?
Anthony Amato. Here. Valerie Anderson.
Here?
Alan Brown. Here. Gregory Cava. Rebecca Devine, I'm here. Michelle Gora. Emily Hibbard. James Hirschfield.
Yes.
Jennifer Pody. Here. Michael Sinatra. Peter Tagley. Here. Sydney Warble.
All right. So we have a quorum. We're missing Greg, Michelle, Emily, Michael, and Sydney. We have 7 present. All right. Item 2, discussion of 2016-17 budget. Is there any discussion? Valerie?
I do believe I would like to make a motion. First off, I would like to make a motion, but I would like more information first, that we take the $250,000 out of the operating budget and commit to the renovation of the teacher's office area, but eventually finance it through the 1% fund as much as we can. And at this particular point, and I've been looking here in the minutes, we don't really have estimates that I'm aware of the real cost and what needs to happen there. I know there's some basic kind of ballpark, but I think that...
we had a budget presented to us, a breakdown of the budget, of what, you know,
So
it was
where
an
is it?
estimate.
Where is it?
I've asked
Don
Don
is digging it
I
up.
can't seem to find
Because
mine.
I do know what,
Last
we have to be careful about the 1%, but to put it in the operating budget, I think we are passing up a great opportunity to have our budget decrease by about 11%. And with our population decreasing, and with our voters having just generously passed a very large bond referendum, and the fact that the town of Washington's budget responsibility is now increased by $500,000. I think it's the least we can do to take some of that pressure off. We do have the money in the 1%. The majority, I believe, of what we can do should come out of the 1%. I think it's a win-win. We'll get the job done. We'll be able to supervise it better because we'll be asked to make allocations out of the 1% when appropriate. once we get hard numbers, and it's not just a blank check out of the operating budget. So that, my motion is to move 250 out of the operating budget.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. It certainly has, for myself, it certainly Peter?
I walked around the room with Don, he took me around the room, and I'm sure he has spoken to a number of people to give him some ideas of what it would cost. But from my vantage point, there are two issues. One, it's very hard to go to the taxpayers and say, we're going to spend $250,000 on a room, and someone says, well, let's see the bids. What is it going to look like? Show us something. I think that's incumbent upon the board, that you have to have a plan if you're going to spend $250,000 as to what exactly you're going to do, not just make a statement. I have no problem with Don's estimate, because I'm sure he's called some people. But basically, we have no plan before us of any sort. No, someone said we're going to modernize that
I'm sure
road.
Don has a plan.
Well, I haven't seen the plan.
Have you asked him to see it?
Well, we walked over the room, and he didn't allude to me that he had a plan.
Okay.
He said that, no, I didn't see a plan. But regardless of that, I'll give you my other reason,
Okay.
which I think is more important. You know Washington's budget's going up
Hold on.
$500,000 this year.
Yes. You said they're heading into it without a plan. That's not accurate.
Well, when I
We
walked
don't have
around the
bids.
room
We
with
don't have
Don,
RFD.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
but you can prove me wrong, I'll accept that. The other issue for me is that, Washington budget will be going up $500,000 because of the change in student population. I think, from my vantage point, having been through this in the past, that putting $250,000 in the budget to modernize an area of this building, in addition to what we've already spent on doing some modernization of the building, could hurt the possibility of passing the budget. Now, I haven't surveyed a number of people, but I think when that gets presented to the public, and I'm sure the selectmen will certainly speak to it at some point when they do their budget, and they have their hearings, I think it could be a reason why people would vote against the budget, which I would not like to see. I would like to see our budget pass, because I've been through budgets that you go through multiple referendums. So that's my personal philosophy, and why I think I would prefer to see
Okay.
the money come from another way.
Well, it certainly has, as I started to say before, it has its appeal. I mean, you're right about that. And I believe that as board members, we have an obligation to act regionally, so that even the crunch on the town's budget shouldn't be the primary concern as a board member. It's certainly something to be considered, I understand that, but it can't be the primary concern in my estimation. You have to think regionally, and you have to do what you think is best for the region. I know there are people, and Anthony may be one of them, who are not here tonight, who, objected to this coming out of this fund, and they're not going to be heard, but that's too bad. And it does have appeal, I don't doubt that. Alan?
Yeah, I'm, of course, be happy for the oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I, of course, would be happy for the effect on the town of Washington, but that's not my main concern. I think, speaking regionally, I think that my concern is Peter started on, it has to do with the passage of the budget. And I think this has been a little bit of a hot topic, and I know we have a forum set up and a tour. And as I've said before, once it was explained exactly what was needed in this project, it was clear to me how it could be that much money, and close to that much money. But I still feel that even though, I think everyone else on the board, or most of us, felt the same way, that it was justified. But that's a focused and concentrated educational prospect that happened here. And I'm afraid that may not be able to happen in the next month, and that it's much easier to tell the public it's no longer in the budget, it's coming out of the 1% fund, that thing that you've been hearing about and that you half understand or half have heard about or have an idea of a teacher's lounge or the workstation. It's a very important collaborative learning space, but it's a lot easier to, even if people still call it a teacher's lounge, it's a lot easier not to have to spend the month correcting them, but to spend the month saying it's no longer in the budget, don't worry about it, please vote for the budget. And I'm not convinced, and I know that maybe someone from facilities or Don can explain the parts of it, but I'm not convinced that there's that much of it which is expense, because so much of the work of the physical work. Even replacing furniture is capital because, yeah, of course. When you have a business, that's a more amortizable expense. You don't do it every day.
It's not for the Board of Education.
It's not.
No.
So-
They believe capital will last at least 20 years.
Let me ask you this, Val, would you consider?
How long has this been here?
Say,
Well, I have the teacher's work area update, the guesstimate, which is 242,925, and it's various and sundry, and to my look, most of it seems capital. It's a renovation. It's a wholesale renovation, which includes new floors, lighting, workstations, restrooms, mechanical. I mean, there definitely is a carve-out, but I frankly wouldn't. I think it's very important we use the 1%, and I do know that we would probably have funds left over in the course of the renovation to take care of what isn't considered capital. However, I could amend my motion and just leave 50,000, take 200 out of the 250, and leave 50,000 in the operating budget.
Do you amend your second, Peter?
Did you hear that?
I'm
She amends her
taking-
motion to 200. Do you amend your second on that?
I'll amend my second.
All right. Did you,
So 200 then would come out of the 1%, as much as we can do legally, because we have the funds, and 50,000 would remain in the budget, and now my calculations are all off, but I think we'll probably
All
be
right.
decreasing by about 10%.
Peter, did you want to be heard? Yes.
Excuse me?
Did you want to be heard? Go ahead.
Yes, and in regard to your comment about doing half or something, I think if we're going to do the project, we certainly should do it right. I mean, to do half or a third or a quarter,
No, I'm sure it'll be done right. The
yeah, I think you
money's
would
there.
have to do the whole project.
Anthony?
The concern that I have is that talking about the project itself and whether or not it's a project that has merit and that we should do it and all the reasons why, I thought we came to a rather unanimous agreement that it had merit and the project should be done. So, right, Valerie's shaking her head, so thank you. So with that as a basis, we could have these discussions, but the expert that we need to tell us how much of what's on that list is unfortunately not in this room.
Right.
So we could have a feel-good sort of motion here to reduce it by 200,000. My concern would be, what if when Bob tomorrow hears that and says, well, unfortunately, you were all wrong, what do we do then? Because now we have a project that can't be completed and is going to referendum. So that's sort of the quandary that I throw out on the table.
Could I just, I looked at the 1%
Go ahead,
fund,
Val.
the reconciliation that we have that I shared with Bridgewater also. The 1% was used for things as disparate as pool pump motor, which is not a 20-year thing, if only.
That was an emergency.
Replace classroom doorknobs for 77,000. So, I mean, there are all sorts of renovation issues that are coming already out of the 1%. I think we're comfortable. I think we will be safe. And to just have a blank check of 250 out of the operating budget when we have a unique opportunity to decrease the budget fairly substantially and without changing program is the way to go. And leave 50,000 in case some issues can't be covered through the 1%. But I do know
Well, we
that
received an
chances are
estimate that
there's
it would be more than 200,000. It was like 248 was the.
242.
242, okay.
All right.
We're certainly not saying that the project's not to be completed. It's to be completed.
Oh, yeah. But 200,000 out of the operating budget
being
is
said.
not,
It's
is
gonna be
not
completed.
appropriate use of the operating budget.
First 200
for
comes
this.
out of the fund.
And all I'm saying is
And it-
my
and it-
example of the 1% is that there's been quite a few other things that have been used out of the 1% that wouldn't have the 20-year test of time
He says no.
of what a capital expenditure is. So 50,000 we leave in the operating budget.
All right.
200,000 come out. The budget decreases by 200,000, which is approximately a 10% decrease, which is really a goodwill number.
1%.
It's a $21 million.
No, 200,000 comes out.
Right,
Yeah,
but isn't 200,000 1% of 21 million?
yeah.
Yeah, 1%, not 10%.
What did I say?
You said 10.
If only.
Is everybody's microphone on? Oh,
Oh, sorry.
No,
right.
But
Leave
it
them
would
on.
be a
then just keep
goodwill
your mic.
decrease.
All right, is there anything else? There's been a motion that's moved and seconded, which is to pay for the renovation of the teacher's lounge by, the first 200,000 comes out of the 1% fund.
Correct. And 50,000 will be left in capital expenditure.
How does that set our budget? I mean, we're going to just reduce it by
We
200.
just have to reduce it. Right now, our budget at 0% is $21,561,448. If you make a motion of reducing it by 200,000, it will be
21 million.
$361,448. And Bob can figure out the exact percentage, but it's about.
I'm sure somebody will figure it out,
Yeah.
okay.
But it's
Do we need
Zero.
to know that number before
No,
we
you
proceed?
you just need to know.
Hold on. Does anybody on the board need to know that number, the reduction, before we vote? All right. Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Anthony abstains. And Jen, okay. The motion passes. You have that? All right. So we've got a budget of
We haven't set
Yeah.
the budget yet. We're just,
21, well, right now, it's 21,361,448.
right,
Is there anything else?
yes.
Valerie?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here in the last meeting that set the budget, but I am very, very concerned that we have a dedicated teacher for 6 students in a classroom. And this will be the continuation of something that I just hope that we know this year, the education process begins and ends here, that we can't continue to dedicate classrooms and teachers for such a small amount of children because it's not educationally sound. So if I had been at that meeting, I probably would have been a voice, I think, of reason not to employ a teacher just for 6 kids. I will not make that motion now. I would like to make a motion that we set the budget for the amount of $21,361,448.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the budget after the public hearing of $21,361,448, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes unanimously.
I would like to
Valerie?
also make a motion that we set the district meeting for May 9th, 2016, and a referendum date for May 10th, 2016, in all 3
We have
towns.
a special meeting and adjourn it to the referendum on May 10th. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jen, seconds? Okay. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, that passes. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? And go to our regular Board of Ed meeting. All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We're adjourned. Does anyone need a break? Can we move on to our regular meeting? Okay.
Curtis left.
Rebecca, again, would you take attendance, please? I guess it's, well, go ahead, take attendance, please.
Anthony Amato. Valerie Anderson. Alan Brown.
Here.
Gregory Cava. Rebecca Devine, I'm here. Michelle Gora. Emily Hibbard. James Hirschfield.
Yes.
Jennifer Pody. Jennifer. Michael Sinatra. Peter Tagley. Sydney Warble.
Okay, thank you. So again, we're missing Greg, Michelle, Emily, Michael, and Sydney. All right, opportunity for the public to comment on agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to address us regarding tonight's agenda? Sir, Mr. Wainwright.
Yes, Bridgewater, still in Bridgewater, still surviving in Bridgewater. I see that Valerie mentioned that teaching 6 children in with
It's the
one
end of the
teacher.
last meeting, yes, she said something like that.
That's exactly right. And now I would ask. It seems to me in the budget. Now maybe we're not talking about the budget now, but it seems to me in the budget.
Right, it's not on the agenda for the meeting. We just finished with that, and so, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I understand that there was $2,100 for a bus to go from Booth to Burnham for the after-school program. Is that correct? I mean, I really can't find it in the
Yes.
budget. The thing makes a little over,
It's there, it's on page
It's on
9.
page 9,
page 9.
same page as the teacher's room.
Do you have a question about it?
Yeah.
About the budget? Okay.
I would just wonder, with $2,100, why can't you run the bus also for another $2,100 and take a bunch of kids from Bridgewater over to Booth and merge a class? I mean, maybe you can answer that question. I mean, in the past, many, many years ago, decades, or maybe a century ago, we had a one principal for all 3 elementary schools. His name was Dick Hoffman, and he was a very flexible guy. When we had a shortage of students in Bridgewater for the 2nd or 3rd grade, I don't remember exactly, but they transported the kids to have a single class in Roxbury. And a couple of years later, they had a similar kind of problem in Roxbury, and they transported the kids to Bridgewater from Roxbury to have a single class. And I can't believe, if it's only $2,100 to run a bus in one direction, for another $2,100, it should be a simple matter with the saving of teachers to have the kind of class that you want and handle the thing like a region. It sounds reasonable to me.
Yes, thanks for bringing that to our attention with regard to the cost. Yes, Valerie?
If I might. Sorry. The time that I think you're referencing with our principal, Mr. Hoffman, was a time when we had renovations done. It was the 1990 bond when renovations were being done at those 2 schools. And so they did have to do that. However, we are bound by the regional agreement to have a K-5 in each of the 3 towns. So you are speaking, well, this is good common sense, of course.
Well, it seems to me that
All right, you know what?
Because the region plan.
We're
we
really out of
cannot.
line here. We're in a regular meeting. Thank you. I'm not throwing you out of town. We just finished our hearing on the budget. Now we're in our regular meeting. And we're not supposed to be engaging in discussions with each other. Supposed to have our meeting. Huh? We're supposed to have our meeting. Okay. Well, we were there. Why didn't you bring it up? We had a public hearing. Why didn't you bring it up during the public hearing? That's all I'm saying. All right, okay. Thank you.
So I guess you guys won't consider that. You ought to relieve your superintendent of his burden.
You could consider taking the 2,100 out of the budget.
Policy to be flexible.
All right, sir, thank you.
Jim?
Appreciate it.
Just a point of order from my vantage point. Is it possible you, as chairman, and the superintendent could speak to our legal counsel to clear the airs on what the board can legally do when it comes to moving classes, moving schools, moving students? There's a law that governs us as to what we can and can't
You know,
do.
there's people who have 2 different opinions of what the law says and what it means, so it could require a lawsuit and ultimately a decision by the Supreme Court is what it would take
Well,
to finally resolve it.
I was hoping that in the course of our committee reports, I was going to make a suggestion to our long-range committee chair that we start some kind of committee of citizens to look at the possibility of making an amendment to the regional plan. Because I know the towns are looking for that. Our hands are tied right now. We can't do it.
No, we're
But
really
maybe
off.
we can examine that possibility.
We're off the.
I'm sorry, we're off the agenda.
We are.
My bad.
Peter, you know, yes, you know, we can look into that as to, but I really mean what I said. There's 2 opinions as to what can be done. It's never been tested in a court, I don't think. There's language, I believe, that says that there will be a K-5 school in each town. And whether some people say, well, you could still have it and still you could move the classes over to fill the classes, some say you can't. And a judge would decide, and another judge would decide, and then the Supreme Court would decide, and that would be the answer. And so, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. But, you know, Val has an idea, but that's for another time. All right?
Maybe I'll bring it up
All right, well, further opportunity for public to comment on agenda items. Is there anyone else who'd like to address us? All right, seeing none, then moving on to item 3 is the consent agenda, which comprise of minutes and field trip approvals. Is there anyone who seeks to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right, then the consent agenda is approved. Report of the chair, I'll skip a report of the chair tonight and move on. Superintendent's report, Dr. Costantino,
Yes.
anything?
I do have some things. A lot has been going on,
Thank you all for coming.
and I wanted to share some wonderful things. First of all, today we named Mary Ann Marr as Teacher of the Year at Region 12. We've been working on this for 2 years to get involved with the Connecticut State Teacher of the Year program, which then leads to the national program. So we had a committee of staff from all of the schools. Teachers were nominated by their colleagues, and Mary Ann was announced today. So we're really very excited about that. I want to also let you know that, and we'll have Mary Ann here at one of the award meetings that we have.
Okay,
If you've got the CABE Journal, where we have a nice picture of our 2 students, and Kim Gallo and Karen and Michelle, when they went to the CABE. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that. And also, for next year's, well, it's this year, but in November, the CABE CAP Conference, Tony Wagner's going to be the keynote, and he is fabulous. The world is flat. So if you have never heard him, try to come. It's wonderful. I want to congratulate Fran Bellinson, who took a group of students to debate in Wilton High School. And we had Bridget Snyder and Wilson King, who got trophies for 4th place in the novice division. And Bianca Getzel was ranked 7th in the speaker in the state out of 96 who attended. So we really did very, very well. They debated against the teams in Dergs A and B, and we're really excited about that. So we're happy to tell you about that. Yesterday, I went to WestCon with the math students at Shepuag, and they put on a Who Wants to Be a Mathematician? And it was a very interactive, wonderful day, and Emily Taylor was our representative, and she did very well, so that was fun. And then today was also Walk to School Day, and I couldn't get to all 3 schools, but I did walk with Booth Free, and it was a wonderful morning. And tonight, they have the Invention Convention at WPS. Tomorrow night's the Science Fair here.
here.
And this weekend, the last 2 nights, to see Seussical the Musical, which was fabulous. So if you haven't seen it, please come. And that's it.
All right.
That's my, oh, and then we have a field trip. Just so you know, approval is required for Silver Lake Conference Center in Sharon. And that's the
Really?
leadership training for the middle school. So we need a
All right, is
motion.
there a motion to approve that field trip?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. All right, it's approved. I should go back in the report of the chair. I did want to congratulate, all the winter athletes, but especially the swimmers. They did really, it was tremendous how well they did. Colin Decker was in the state rankings. So they really, him and the teams, both teams had a great year. All right, moving on to committee reports then. Agri-Science Steering. Anthony, did you have any report?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Education. Anything to, Michelle is not here. I don't know if there's anyone to report for her. Facilities. Greg is not here. Do you know if the Facilities Committee has met, Dr. Collins?
We met, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And Rebecca's on the committee. Honestly, I'm drawing a blank. Do you,
Okay, that's fine. Greg's not here. We don't have a report.
Yeah.
Finance, Valerie?
Our meeting was canceled because of the Monday night rearrangement. However, we're in great shape, and we're going to make some allocations later on in the meeting, and I have reconciliations for the 1% and for the elementary school funds, and Mr. Wainwright needed those reconciliations over the weekend while I was traveling, but we made sure he got them ASAP.
Okay, thank you. Long Range Planning Committee, anything, Alan?
Yeah, we met 2 weeks ago, and we had 4 items on our agenda. Strategic plan redevelopment, which we've talked about the last time I reported. That is still one of our most important topics. International Baccalaureate, talking about a curricular addition to our schools to potentially comply with the International Baccalaureate and prepare our children for earning that. That's something we're just talking and thinking about. Also research between multi-age and multi-grade classrooms. And the 4th one was Region 12 inter-school class population distribution. Thank you very much, Valerie. So we're already on it. We didn't quite get to too much of that, and I think it's important what you mentioned earlier, you don't have to go into it again, is for us perhaps to iron out some of the issues that are keeping us from investigating it fully, the fears or even the facts regarding what legal, either statutory or our own regional plan, what factors may in any way inhibit what we choose or might not choose but be forced to do in the future. So we are onto that. The other thing is that is off the agenda, but still along the lines of some of the things we wanted to do as far as our strategic plan, which was really focusing on goals such as following just simplistically, if our motto is creating opportunities for the future, then that's a great place to start pointing our focus as we develop our new strategic plan. And along those lines, there were certain ideas that Teresa came up as far as contributing from the Director of Curriculum about, I should say, Mr. Brito came up with, as far as medical science and comp science being taught down as far as the K to 5 level. These are the different kind of things we're going to be looking at. So both curricularly as well as organizationally, we're looking towards how to achieve excellence, but also to solve some of the issues that we have while we refresh our strategic plan. So I'll keep updating you. And certainly the suggestions like you had, Valerie, are part of what we're talking about.
Sounds like an ambitious agenda,
Oh, yeah.
Alan, and
We'll be done in
thank
2
you for
weeks.
I'm sure it'll be a searching examination and reports. So I look forward to your work, Alan. Valerie, I'm sorry.
However, I would like to elaborate for just a moment.
You have to turn your microphone on.
Oh, I like it when it's off.
At least I know what button to push.
Yes, you do.
Off most of the time. I can't tell you how important I believe this might be. And I would like us to have either your committee or a committee of the board explore region plan modification to allow a reconfiguration, because there's no other way for us. I cannot see it. And I know that Jim mentioned the fact that we could go through the court system, but I see dollar signs.
No,
big
I didn't.
dollar
I
signs.
didn't mean to imply that we will go through the court system. I shouldn't have said that.
No, I know you're just saying that's one way to
To
approach
get the
it.
ultimate answer, yeah.
Because we all have been in situations where we've had to get multiple decisions and then finally go to the Supreme Court, and it's an
That happened
expensive
once.
way to
Happened
go.
once, yeah.
I mean, it is decisive, but I think we see now an opportunity of cooperation,
Yes.
and it would be great to use that cooperation. So I would like to see how we can modify the regional plan as soon as possible. And so that we go to the voters and say, this is what we want to do. We have the possibility of a K-5 in each and every elementary school, but sometimes we will not have all those grades serviced in every town. That's the only way I see us going forward. And so I really want to urge that as like priority number 1 for long
Okay.
range.
I think that's possible because it may not even need modification. It may be through an investigation of precedent, but we've done that enough that we're not actually. It may not even need modification depending on what we discover, because it could be based on precedent that we've done it over the last 30 years or 40 years that the regions existed, or beyond that, even simple logistics, that you're not actually removing the K-5 school by removing a year at a time here and there as you move kids around.
Yeah,
So
the
we'll look
potential
into that
is-
to find out
yeah.
what is debatable and how dangerous it
Yeah.
is to make assumptions.
Yeah, we always had the reality and the potential for K-5 in each and every school. However, some years we might not. And when you say precedent, indeed, that was when there was some remodeling done in elementary schools. that I don't think is going to be the basis to hang our hat on. But let's really pursue it. And maybe it's illegal, maybe we can just get an attorney's opinion letter and then proceed. That would be lovely, because we now have, all three towns are really interested in this, and that's rare.
Well, Alan's going to press the work.
Thank you.
Sure he will. Alan, anything else for Alan? Okay. Negotiations, Greg is not here. I'm on that committee. We don't have any current negotiations. Policies and bylaws. I think Michelle would say that there are some policies on the agenda for tonight.
This thing goes off.
Okay, and I know they've been working on it. All right, so those are the committee reports. Any old business? All right, moving on, seeing none, moving on to new business. Approve the 2016-17 board meeting schedule. Dr. Cosentino?
Yeah, it's just the meeting schedule for next school year.
All right,
So the first meeting in the summer, the organizational meeting, I believe, is in July.
usually is, yes.
I just have to find my calendar here, it's somewhere. July 18th, I'm sorry.
You're right.
July 18th is the organizational meeting, and it's
Okay.
just,
Is there a motion to approve the 2016-17 board meeting schedule? Was sent to us.
So moved.
All right, well, Jen's got, she moved, and Valerie can second.
Oh, sorry,
Any
second.
further discussion?
I just have one little question.
Yes, Alan?
Already as it is, and this even applies to this calendar, I may be looking to switch the long-range planning committee meeting because even though 5
Alan?
o'clock. Yes. I'm already looking to switch the long-range planning committee meeting even this year because a lot of the members can't make it at 5. Clearly, if we accept this now, we can
we
amend
can
it.
revise,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
All right. Anything further? All those in favor of approving the calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes, thank you. 8.2, to consider and if appropriate, approve revision of the 2015-16 school calendar.
Yes, we are really just asking, the last day of school is always a half-day for all staff and students. What we're asking for this year is to make the Friday, June 10th, a half-day for students, a full day for staff. We like to do some recognition, some tying up of different curricula and paperwork and stuff. So the last day is the 13th. That's already a half-day. What we're asking for is to make the Friday, the 10th, half-day for students, full day for staff. It's also graduation that night for the 8th grade and graduation the next day for the high school. So we have a lot to do.
All right.
And then you're talking Monday, the 13th?
Is the last day, and that is already a half-day based on the schedule.
So it would just be a teacher's day, it would not be,
Cutting
No,
the
it's a
school
half-day
day
for
half a day.
everybody.
okay.
Full day for teacher, on Friday.
On the Friday, the 10th.
Is there a motion to approve that calendar change?
I make a motion to approve that
Second.
calendar change.
All right, moved and seconded by Valerie. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. It passes. 8.3, to consider and if appropriate, in accordance with Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-5-2, transfer up to 1% or $215,615 from the approved fiscal year 2015-16 budget appropriation into the reserve fund for capital and non-recurring expenditures, as recommended by the Finance Committee at their March 7, 2016 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Valerie, is there anything you want to say on this?
No, seems wildly appropriate.
Anything further? Been moved and seconded? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you very much. 8.4, to consider and if appropriate, authorize an expenditure of an amount not to exceed $91,000 from the 1% capital reserve fund for capital improvements, as recommended by the Finance Committee on March 7, 2016. And it lists items for 8.4 which total $91,000. Some at Shepuag, some at district-wide expenditures. Is there a motion? Alan
Second.
moves. Valerie seconds. Is there any further discussion? Anybody have any questions about this?
If anyone needs a reconciliation of that account, I have it, and also Bob provides it with each and every Finance Committee meeting. And by the way, our minutes and all the documents we get for Finance Committee are a complete photo of everything you want to know about our financial position. So all information is known.
Thank you, Valerie. Anything further? It's been moved and seconded. 8.4, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes unanimously. 8.5,
Can I
Valerie.
just
Yes.
say that that 1% then does have, after these changes of adding in and taking out, $467,056.76 balance in the 1%.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 8.5, to consider and if appropriate, authorize an expenditure of an amount not to exceed $99,500 from the Elementary Capital Non-Recurring Fund, paren lease and paren, as detailed below. Lists the 3 primary schools with a total expenditure $99,500.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Valerie?
Just to let you know that the balance in that account then will be $751.65, which is appropriate for the use of this account.
All right. Anyone else? Anything else? It's been moved and seconded. 8.5, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes unanimously. All right, thank you very much. 8.6, first reading policy 4118.5, personnel, rights, responsibilities, duties. Alan?
Does everyone see this in their copies? I'll pull them up. I always pull them up backwards. These were sent in your folders. I pulled them up backwards, so let me make sure I pull up point 5 first. I always pull up point 11 first. All right. Once again, as you've been seeing recently, a lot of these have been simply compliance with new statutory changes. You'll see that those that are in your folder on your Chromebooks, if you have them, are nicely outlined in blue. The gist of this one is to remind employees that their emails and their files that they use as part of the network and as part of the devices that are either issued or as used as resources in Region 12 are not private, which means that they obviously need to keep ideas of propriety in mind, but beyond that, there can be no confusion as to anything they're doing being exposed if the need arises in the future, whether it's legally or academically or for any reason. And then that's the first part. And then the second paragraph simply maintains that because we teach students about appropriate online behavior, clearly, and this is not a student policy, it's a personnel policy, clearly you want to make sure that the personnel are adhering to that and also not violating that themselves. So it's very cut and dried that way.
Can I ask a procedural question, please? On my lovely Apple product,
Yes?
at the very top, it says policy 4218.5. But in what we've been given in here, it's 4118.5. What is the correct one?
It should be 4118, and it's interesting because what I have, the 4218.5 is yellow
Yes.
highlight,
Yeah.
and I believe that's because, I'll just
Was
quickly
it
look.
changed?
Yeah, I'm just going to look into, give me a second to pull up the documents.
See, I do pay attention.
You good. You must be, have something to do with finance, the way you work with numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just odd because the next one is then 4118.11. I mean, it's kind of,
Yeah, no, it is
Weirdly
4118. The 42 is completely accidental.
okay, bad.
Because we don't have a 4218. We have a 4217. It closes our 42s.
Okay.
So that must be correcting a typo on that, because it's always been listed. And even on, let me just see what we have online at the moment. For everybody who doesn't know, going through the Board of Education tab on the Region 12 website, you can get to the policy area. The policy area will take you to the Region 12 policies as they're hosted by CABE on their website. The link goes there, and you can always look at our policies that way, which is what I'm doing now. And although it's probably boring you, I've got to try to find this. Here it is. Oh, yeah. It's a slash.
Oh,
I know what it is. I'm just wondering if the slashes very often are, and here we go. Yes. 4 1s are certified. 4 2s are non-certified. In this case, it's an identical policy, which means we're doing a slash. And the way it is online is 4118.5/4218.5. In other words, we're not bothering to either show a separate policy or even number it. We're just putting both numbers together to
So
show that
it's
this policy
both
applies to both certified.
Certified and uncertified is the title
Yes,
is.
that's it. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
That was the long answer while I,
That was a long answer.
I was vamping while I found the
No,
answer.
that was good, that was good.
It's 20
Okay.
minutes. All right.
Lest there be any.
Is there a motion to approve the
So-
policy 4118.5 as described for first reading?
So moved.
I will second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Somebody down there, second.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving 4118.5 for first reading of the board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes first reading. Next, item 8.7 on the agenda, first reading of policy 4118.11, personnel, non-discrimination. Is this the same, Alan? where it's
Yes,
in bold?
I'm going to head this off.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Thank you for calling it attention before. Now I have the answer much faster. It's also, you'll notice, 4218.11, because you'll see that it's personnel certified and non-certified together. This is even easier. It also has to do with statute. The idea is that we have things that we must not discriminate about. We are all familiar with race, color, religious creed, age, marital status, national organ, sex, and sexual orientation, but we now must add gender identity or expression. And that also stipulates that we need to, as you've probably heard in the current events, those issues often can get a little complex, and therefore there's more language having to do with genetic information. In other words, we're not questioning how you identify or how you come to identify yourself regardless of your genetic information. And so that is simply adding the language to protect our personnel from that kind of discrimination.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved as a first reading.
All right, second by Anthony. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, it passes unanimously.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
We're moving it.
Is there a second? Jen seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you.